Come on. There's fireworks right now. Welcome to the Red Granite Party. The emergence of real film, real content, and the change of the film industry forever.
It was a very strange experience because it was the sort of equivalent of a big studio party. It was just this heaving mass of people and then stars everywhere. Right? You know, Leonardo DiCaprio was there, and then Kanye West comes on stage. And Jamie Foxx joins him, and they do Gold Digger. And the guy next to me is like, that's like $1 million burnt right there.
Give it up for Kanye West in the building right now! Red Granite forever!
It's kind of bizarre because no one actually knew who Red Granite were. They just sort of launched, and suddenly they were here with this massive party. People were really sort of stunned, wondering, who are these people?
And their associates conspired to misappropriate and launder billions of dollars.
Complex money laundering schemes and a web of opaque transactions,
including high-end real estate in New York and Los Angeles.
They used the money to pay gambling debts at Las Vegas casinos.
The motion picture company used more than $100 million of that.
They rented luxury yachts. They parked Laurel condo in New York City and a townhouse.
Assets that kleptocrats and other corrupt officials steal.
Wire transfers totaling approximately $64 million. The funds were used to acquire nearly $100 million.
People were defrauded on an enormous scale. Schemes whose tentacles reached around the world.
In February 2013, I started an investigation into illicit money flow coming into the United States. The money was coming into high-end real estate, and it was coming through shell companies where the owners could be hidden. I decided to focus on the Time Warner Center. It's an iconic building of a much more global phenomenon. A lot of the money the very rich have is invisible. You don't see people's bank accounts. But real estate is very visual. This is really the starting point for the story. This deed for 80 Columbus Circle, Time Warner Center, penthouse 76B. The owner, 80 Columbus Circle, parentheses, NYC, LLC. No name of a human being. Sale price, $30.55 million. After Time Warner Center, I looked for shell company names in this same format. Address, parentheses, city, LLC. And I found some. 1 Central Park West, parentheses, NYC, LLC. Then there's this one here, Park Laurel, parentheses, NYC, LTD. The buyer is Sourcem Investments, Inc., another shell company, signed by sole director of Sourcem Investments, named Riza Aziz. Once I saw the name, Riza Aziz, I looked him up, and it was pretty easy to see that he was running Red Granite Picture, and that he was in the process of producing Wolf of Wall Street.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was 3 shy of $1 million a week.
The Wolf of Wall Street's based on Jordan Belfort, a very charismatic, smart individual who set up a firm and stole money.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles. You know what a fugazi is?
No, fugazi. It's fake.
He wired the money around the world as part of a disguise to hide it, and then used that money to acquire great wealth and toys that come with it.
But there's nowhere to go, and there's no way to slow.
The parallels between the Wolf of Wall Street story and Red Granite story, they're actually pretty stunning. It really is a very strange turn of events.
This was an incredibly hard film to get financed from the onset. You know, not many studios are chomping at the bit to do an American epic with Wall Street in the title, let alone that's this sort of focus on hedonism and debauchery and excess. And for that reason, I'm thankful to the people that we ran into in Red Granite that were willing to take a gamble on making a very adult American epic about, you know, the state of our culture. We're very excited, very, very excited.
Riza Aziz was a mid-level banker at HSBC. This was not a high-level person who would have made tens of millions of dollars that you would need to see these movies. And Joey McFarlane, his partner at Red Granite, was from Kentucky, had had some random real estate deals in the Midwest, and then had worked as a talent booker. But again, not someone who was coming with tens of millions of dollars needed to see the movie. I started talking to a number of different sources in Hollywood about Red Granite. Who were these guys who had showed up out of nowhere, really? A Hollywood source played for me a secret recording of Joey back from 2011 talking about Red Granite.
Once this ball gets rolling, if his first picture makes money and shows them what we're capable of, and first launch party, the premiere party, all the red carpet bullshit that goes along with this is going to be the biggest business I do all year, because I'm going to be fucking inviting the goddamn Prince of Saudi Arabia.
It showed that Joey had a lot of self-confidence and belief in his ability to get people with big money to do what he wanted. It also gave me some insight into Riza's family.
All the way to the top. Yes, the uncles, they're like the Kennedys. I'll put it to you this way, bro. If we fucking have a killer 2 years, we'll be one of the biggest companies. You don't realize the people that I have behind me.
Matthew, please, please. Congratulations, Margot. Congratulations.
I was there at the Wolf of Wall Street premiere after party. Riza was just out with the rest of the guests, sitting on a banquet. He had a tall, beautiful blonde woman accompanying him, not acting like he was the center of the action. Leonardo DiCaprio was in the VIP area. And there was a man there with Leonardo DiCaprio. I said, "Who's that fellow?" Pointing. And they said, "Oh, he's a really rich man. He's Joe Lowe." he's provided the money for the movies. And I said, oh, well, how did he make his money? And they said, we're not sure, but he's the man behind all the money.
A very easy, quick Google search brought up the mysterious big spender of New York. And he had been covered a few years prior in the New York Post for spending so much money on the club scene.
He was very sought after by every club owner.
He was there. He was making your year.
Just one bottle after the next, after the next.
Like $10,000 bottles of champagne.
He had an entourage. Everyone was trying to woo him and be his best friend. I thought he was like Malaysian royalty, whatever that means. You know, I didn't really know, and I didn't really care, to be honest.
So 76B is one of the Time Warner penthouses that was purchased in 2011 for $30.5 million. Right up there, it's on the tower on the right, and it's on the left side of the tower. It's one of the most lavish penthouses in the building.
The renters of this unit used to be Jay-Z and Beyonce. And we found that during the shooting of Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio stayed in 76B, and Joey McFarlane spent a lot of time in the complex. There were so many loud parties that there were complaints.
I had a lot of sources in and around this building. And I was told there was a young Malaysian man who came to the showing of this unit, and he told people he was buying it for a group of investors, including the Prime Minister of Malaysia. That young man was Joe Low. Because of that connection, I knew that this was a two-headed investigation. It was an investigation of Joe Low, and it was an investigation of the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Duduk berbincang. Kita boleh selesaikan melalui saluran yang betul.
Najib became Prime Minister in 2009. Obviously, he's my brother. We were extremely proud of his achievement. Our family has been very much at the heart of government in Malaysia since independence. Our late father became the second Prime Minister of Malaysia. We were extremely proud of what my father achieved, and we wanted his legacy to always be remembered correctly. Najib took on that mantle, and it was exciting in the early days.
Tetapi bagi saya, I am a gentleman.
Najib is a very interesting character. He had very modern ideas for Malaysia when he took power. He promoted himself as a moderate Muslim leader in the world, as a friend to America. So on that level, very modern. But having started out as a supposedly reformist figure, he ends up becoming a more and more authoritarian leader.
The Prime Minister controls the Attorney General, the judiciary, the media, and the Election Commission. And we have been governed by the same political party since independence. One party for more than 60 years. It This is a very undemocratic system of process. The Prime Minister and the wife of the Prime Minister, they are very, very funny characters. They give me an idea every day. But in Malaysia, there are two individuals cannot be drawn into cartoon. One is the wife of the Prime Minister, and the second one is the Prophet Muhammad. That means she is now on the same level with Prophet Muhammad. Because of my cartoons, I'm facing 9 charges, which carry a maximum penalty for 43 years in prison. Yeah?
When I arrived in Malaysia, my luggage was lost. And when my luggage showed up, it was all ruffled through. I was sensitive not to contact a lot of people before I went because, you don't know whose communications are tapped and so on. And I went to Georgetown in Penang. And I met with Malaysians who knew Jolo and his family when he was growing up. I found out that the Low family is a wealthy, but not extraordinarily rich family originally. They became much richer through Joe's activities. They had their ups and downs. He had falling outs with business partners. There was a renovation on their home there that ended up in a lawsuit over unpaid bills. Larry had split off from his company, and it was a bit of a depressed affluence. And Joe really became the Low family's hope for the future when he went off to Harrow.
The old schools change little through the years. Old customs die hard within their walls. There are still straws in the wind on Harrow Hill.
I think the big sort of transformative moment for Jolo was when his parents decided to send him to Harrow boarding school in the UK in the late 90s, because he suddenly went from this, pretty backwater Malaysian island to the school where Winston Churchill and others had studied.
Since the granting of the school's charter, 7 of Britain's prime ministers have been educated here. Sir Winston Churchill frequently revisited Harrow as one of its most distinguished old boys.
So Jolo was suddenly, studying alongside the King of Jordan's son, the children of royalty and Arab businessmen's kids, and these people were a lot wealthier than he was. And I think that really gave him an eye onto a different world of wealth, and is probably pretty crucial in his sort of psychological development.
In fact, Joe became really good friends with Riza in London. And he also got to know Riza's mother, Rosma. And Rosma was the wife of Najib. Riza Aziz was the stepson of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And friends with them all was Jolo. in September 2014, I wanted to see if Joe and Najib would meet up in New York. They were both in town during the United Nations General Assembly. My colleague Stephanie Saul and I staked out the Time Warner Center. Stephanie stood outside and would tell me when anyone was coming up. And I was upstairs in the lobby of the Mandarin Oriental. First, she texted me. I stood at the ready of the elevator. Out he came. He walked over and sat in the bar. A little while later, she texted. Again, I was at the ready of the elevator. Najib walked around to the entrance to the hotel rooms. It was not more than 2 minutes. Joe stood up from the bar, walked over, and followed Najib up into the rooms. I asked Joe and Najib's representatives about this. They confirmed they had been up there meeting. They said it was a short social gathering. End of story. But, you know, a lot was going on right then in the story of 1MDB and this money trail, and I do wonder what they were talking about up there.
When Najib Razak took over as the Prime Minister of Malaysia, he came up with this idea to set up an investment fund called 1MDB. The trust fund that brings returns for the future of the people. And every cent of that came from Malaysian taxpayers. When I found out that 1MDB invested $1 billion in a company called Petro Saudi, the first thing you do is you check who Petro Saudi is. It is a fantastic name. Petroleum, at that point in time, $110 per barrel. Saudi Arabia, the king of petroleum. This has to be a jackpot company. Then when you do a search on Petro Saudi, you realize that the founder, Tariq Ubaid, there was no reference of him in Google any time before 2009. And I discovered that he was only 32 years old. It was then that we found out that when 1MDB actually invested the $1 billion in Petro Saudi was barely a year old. So all those little facts put together rang huge alarm bells that there's something fishy with this investment. And that's when I raised my first question in March 2010 in Parliament. Who guarantees this loan? They said Petro Saudi guarantees the loan. On the corporate guarantee, what is their paid-up capital? How much money do they have? What is their financial reserve? Can you show us the statement such that they can actually guarantee a $1 billion loan? Confidential.
I had always asked the question, why was 1MDB not subject to the same oversight as the rest of the government companies? So I then got hold of my other brothers and we met Najib and told him that, look, you know, we are very concerned about this and how that's somewhat conflicted with the kind of values that our father had. Public service, integrity, frugality. Najib said he would look into the matter and that he would fix any shortcomings at 1MDB.
It came to my attention 1MDB had raised bonds, public debt, with Goldman Sachs. Debt that the people of Malaysia would have to pay back. Goldman Sachs was being paid huge amounts. And anyone who's making atypically huge fees, you have to ask why. I thought, I can't wait to meet with this person, and we did meet, and I got a lot of information about how close Joe Low was to these transactions. Joe Low popped up on everything. He's secretly getting consulting fees from 1MDB. He's in the VIP area at the Wolf of Wall Street after party, and he's thanked in the credits. Joe and Riza passing money between them behind shell companies and real estate. And so the very tight connection between Joe Low and the Prime Minister's family and the Malaysian people's money was becoming very clear.
They were each pieces in a puzzle, and I put this whole puzzle together.
I read the New York Times article. I was shocked, but also extremely embarrassed. I didn't know Joe Low. I think I shook his hand a couple of times, but I didn't know him. But the idea that he was in some way linked to my brother and potentially spending Malaysian taxpayers' money really disgusted me.
I knew that there were documents that were available, that were for sale, that purported to show details of money moving between 1MDB and Joe Low. Leaked documents. Those were the smoking gun.
This is a triumph of journalism, of different parties working together around the world to uncover this massive, massive scandal. The work done by the New York Times, online whistleblower, Sarah Report, and of course in Malaysia you have the Age publications who got into trouble with the authorities.
We will not apologize because we have not done anything wrong. Okay? We stand by everything we have published. And I would like to add one thing. None of the article we have published has been challenged.
The Sarawak report came out with this bombshell in February of 2015. $700 million had been taken from the fund under the guise of being sent to a joint venture with a Saudi Arabian oil company.
When Sarah Report first published the joint venture agreement between 1MDB and Petro Saudi, it was explosive. That was the first time we get a peek into the hidden operations within 1MDB on how they were scamming the money from the Malaysian people. It was depressing. People were angry.
The documents showed that $700 million had ended up in an offshore company allegedly controlled by Joe Low.
For the record, do you have any involvement or have you had any involvement with One Malaysia Development Berhad?
I believe that this is a politically sort of charged effort to try and
put the blame on me when truly I have no decision-making authority.
Why would you be a political target in this unfolding scandal?
I think it's because it may have stemmed from my 16-year friendship with Reza Aziz, who is, of course, the stepson of the Malaysian Prime Minister. And I feel like I'm just an easy target and a victim because of my age and, unfortunately, some of the things that I've done in my early years of partying that, I had a bit too much fun then.
The Jolo birthday party was a spectacle in every sense. They had hired at least 250 of the most gorgeous-looking models from all over America to be cocktail waitresses at this party. And they were all identically dressed in red. They made a stunning visual impact. And all of them were walking around with magnums of Cristal. I remember standing at the bar with Britney Spears as she was waiting her turn to go on to sing Happy Birthday. And then Jamie Foxx walked on to be the MC. And now you're paying attention. You're saying this is no ordinary party. This was now big money. I was introduced to Jolo, and he was a super rich playboy billionaire holding court. Around Jolo were security people. It's like a wedding cake, if you can imagine. Mr. Malaysian Moneybags was at the very top, and then there were these tiers that came down, and you were either in tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3. Paris Hilton was ushered right into the intimate circle. There was this huge turnout of celebrities, including DiCaprio. The list is endless. You could run a movie credits crawl on the screen of all the people that were there. This was the entrance to the party. I went back to look at it the next day, and it was like it never ever happened. It had gone. It didn't exist 3 days beforehand. It didn't exist 24 hours afterwards. I mean, it was a proper circus tent with a giant Ferris wheel inside. I don't think I would be wrong if I described it as the best and the most expensive party that Las Vegas has ever seen. To do what they did, a Ferris wheel, amusement games, an arcade, security, the food, the drinks, the gifts, the stars, the celebrities. That must have cost $100 million. In the end, none of it really made sense. If somebody is spending that kind of money, that freely, it cannot have come from legitimate sources.
How do we define value?
We interviewed Jolo at the Journal in 2014, and we wrote a story about him as an investor.
It is about how each deal changes a community, a country, and the world.
There's this video that Jolo creates. It's an attempt to portray himself as a jet-setting corporate titan.
Our approach is to fundamentally question how quality is created, how to enhance value, identify synergies, capitalize on it.
And the backstory that he gave to people was that his family had a lot of money, and it was investing money on behalf of his grandfather and his father, who'd made billions in iron ore mining in Thailand. But as soon as people put real resources into trying to find out about his grandfather, You only needed to ask a few people in Malaysia and you realize he didn't have billions. At least not, he didn't inherit billions. Then started to donate a lot of money to cancer centers, to the United Nations. And I think that again was an attempt to make it appear that he was this real businessman. So the questions about where his money came from, he hoped would go away. But we kept digging, and in the summer of 2015, it came out with this much bigger story.
The Wall Street Journal came into possession of secret documents that revealed a very large payment of about $681 million paid into the personal bank account of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And that was a big fact. And it was a mystery that needed to be solved. And then we came into possession of these BlackBerry Messenger transcripts between Jolo and one of the mid-level bankers that oversaw the Prime Minister's accounts. One of these descriptions refers to 681 American pies about to come into the Prime Minister's bank account. The bank records show 681 million American dollars are transferred in. In this case, the American pie means $1 million. So that was the code word. Until that point, we hadn't really connected Jolo to the transfer to the Prime Minister. It showed that he was there stage managing these discussions and setting things up. And it just really proved his instrumental role in the case.
He's asking bankers at Ambank, a bank that he used and the Prime Minister used, to do things so compliance cannot see. And he's asking, you know, please move this money here, that money there. Please just tell them Najib wants this. And he's very impatient, he's very distracted. I'd say from reading the BlackBerry messages, the general impression you get is that Jolo is cutting a lot of corners. I was very excited because, you know, you've been a journalist for 20 years. It's not every day that you get a story about a sitting Prime Minister receiving stolen funds. We wanted to make sure that we upheld very high standards in reporting it, and we're obviously getting pushback from the Prime Minister's office saying, well, you know, this is not true. So very nervous to make sure that we were reporting it. You know, everything was 100% correct. You can't make mistakes on these kinds of stories.
I happened to be on holiday in LA, and over breakfast I picked up the Wall Street Journal, and I was stunned.
Well, a shocking development and allegations for the first time directly linking the Prime Minister to the 1MDB scandal.
681 million US dollars. Yeah, I fell off my chair, to be honest. This was now becoming an international story. That was the magnitude of what was happening.
Prime Minister, you look happy. Can I ask you, sir, why you haven't resigned over personal involvement in a corruption scandal of global proportions, sir? Are you going to resign, Prime Minister?
The $681 million that Najib allegedly received into his accounts came 2 months before a really important general election in 2013. It certainly looked like 1MDB had been a political slush fund, a way that he could spend money and get re-elected.
I remember what happened during the 13th general elections, and we were wondering where all this money was coming from that was being poured into various constituencies. There was money being given away. There's vote buying in many respects. 1MDB is people's money, which is why it's very irksome that they would use the people's money to ensure their own victory.
It's very, very hard to describe. Najib is my brother. He will always be my brother, and I love him as my brother. We are a close-knit family, but it seemed to me that his promise that he would look into it and make sure there was no impropriety at 1MDB was not happening. What I then decided to do was to campaign to get various influential people to also look into 1MDB. I went to see politicians on both sides and really urged everyone to make sure that this is properly investigated and the rule of law applies.
In the summer of 2015, the Central Bank, the Attorney General, the Anti-Corruption Commission were trying to investigate 1MDB and find out what had been going on.
As police raided the offices of Malaysian state investment fund 1MDB on Wednesday, members of the Prime Minister's political party appeared to be closing ranks behind him. The Wall Street Journal is alleging investigators at the fund found transfers of almost $700 million to Najib Razak's own bank account.
What we believe happened is that the Attorney General was preparing a draft arrest warrant for Najib, and as the document was being prepared, the Prime Minister decided to remove the Attorney General, who was investigating 1MDB.
Suddenly there was a clampdown on 1MDB investigations. The Edge editor was held overnight. The Edge was suspended for, I think, a few weeks. And at that time, I began to also fear for my safety.
Protests on the streets of Kuala Lumpur go into a second day.
These protesters are directing their anger at one man, Prime Minister Najib Razak.
You cannot allow a prime minister and his cabinet to continue to plunder a country just because they want to live in luxury. This scandal will affect our basic services. Cutbacks in the health services, cutbacks in education, cutback in terms of the quality of our transport. The cutback is a result of the corruption. You know, these people who are supposed to be our leaders just do not care. Whereas the rest of the population are more concerned with whether they can actually put food on the table.
We urge all Malaysians to demand for Najib to step down and the institutional reforms to be implemented to end all the corruptions that's happening in this country. The Prime Minister must tender his resignation.
Jadi perkara yang paling membuatkan saya agak terkesan dan juga marah berkenaan dengan penyalahgunaan dana 1MDB yang telah menghasilkan satu filem The Wolf of Wall Street. Malaysia, dan dari mana datangnya duit tersebut? Dan ini melibatkan kroni-kroni yang related to Najib Razak, Perdana Menteri Malaysia. Jadi Jadi adakah duit tersebut adalah hasil tabungan mereka daripada kecil ataupun sememangnya sudah tentu 1MDB punya duit daripada rakyat Malaysia?
Reuters reports that production company Red Granite has been accused of using $100 million that had been diverted from the 1MDB fund to finance The Wolf of Wall Street.
I think even before anyone knew anything about the connections to Malaysia, before any of the dots really had been joined between 1MDB, people were wondering where the hell they'd got their money.
Yes, this is Alex from The Hollywood Reporter. How are you doing?
So, yes, well, I wanted to speak to you about the company Red Granite.
I've been trying to speak to anyone involved in Red Granite.
We wrote a story about Red Granite that was published yesterday. Obviously, there's a growing investigation into the company.
Former employees, anyone that's dealt with them from other films, and they all have a lot of things to say, and they're all absolutely fascinating, but I can't say any of them because no one will go on record.
The amounts of money that are being talked about are vast. 230, 240 million ended up with Red Granite.
Hollywood is actually quite a small place, really, and everyone knows everyone. You know, you don't want to really be the whistleblower, you don't want your name out there as the person that talks about stuff.
DiCaprio, from what we understand, hasn't said anything. Obviously, he earned potentially upwards of 25 million from The Wolf of Wall Street.
You know, if you want to continue to function in the industry, probably best to keep your mouth shut.
I mean, did you have any direct dealings with Rizza and Joey? Can we go on the record with that?
Leonardo DiCaprio with Martin Scorsese, they're the biggest filmmakers on the planet. They make award-winning, Oscar-winning films. People love them. How long before they say, we didn't know, or, oh God, this is terrible, we should never have done this? They're going to have to say something at some point. They're public figures.
So we're going to get the lead opposition figures of Malaysia and get their reaction. Thank you so much for talking to us. This is Patrick from The Hollywood Reporter.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, okay.
So we're at the Cannes Film Festival here, and...
Wow, I'm envious.
You should come next year.
I can't get out of the country at the moment.
Okay, I imagine you're very busy.
No.
No?
My passport is still restricted.
Oh, I see.
I'm still not allowed to travel.
Wow, what is the backstory to that?
The reasons provided is that I'm currently being investigated for activities detrimental to parliamentary democracy, punishable by 20 years of jail. So, yeah, there you go.
Wow. So, Wolf of Wall Street, for the people in Malaysia who have seen the film, do you think they have a bitter feeling about it?
The feeling is that the entire film is a parody of exactly what's happening with NSDP. Financial crime, using complicated instruments, global financial institutions, international money laundering are all present in 1MDB itself. And with Jolo and Rizza Aziz's name prominently displayed in the Wolves of Wall Street, it appears as if they are laughing at Malaysians.
good morning, all. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. And we are here to announce a significant step in our ongoing work to combat global corruption. And today, the Department of Justice has filed a civil complaint. Now, our complaint alleges that from 2009 through 2015, these officials and their associates conspired to misappropriate and launder billions of dollars from 1MDB. The co-conspirators laundered their stolen funds through a complex web of opaque transactions and fraudulent shell companies with bank accounts in countries around the world. 1MDB was created by the Malaysian government to promote economic development with the ultimate goal of improving the well-being of the Malaysian people. But unfortunately, sadly, tragically, a number of corrupt 1MDB officials treated this public trust as a personal bank account.
By the fact that $3.5 billion have been stolen from the fund.
No. Hang on first. We have to establish the facts first, yeah? And this is a civil action. This is not a criminal action. But I want to say categorically that we are serious about good governance.
All right, thank you.
Secretary Najib Razak said the government will give its full cooperation to international parties investigating issues surrounding 1MDB.
The Wolf of Wall Street earned just shy of $400 million internationally. The idea of a film of that magnitude being seized and then owned by the US government was not anything I've ever heard of before. The Hollywood angle, because it was such a growing story and it was all unravelling, it was something that requires a little bit more investigating.
So last night, I was given a new update. Jolo, the man at the centre of the whole 1MDB scandal, Jolo bought a $31 million penthouse in the Time Warner building in New York. The real estate agent representing the seller was Robert De Niro's son.
No way.
Rafael De Niro. And Robert De Niro met with the Malaysian Prime Minister and his wife in 2009 and 2010, I believe, and first in New York, and then he went over to Malaysia and had lunch with Rosman Mansour, the Prime Minister's wife.
We should check that out.
Bob, you're on with Alex.
Hello.
Bob.
Hey, Mr. De Niro, very nice to speak to you. I wanted to talk to you about this, this Malaysian corruption scandal. How well do you know Najib Razak, the Malaysian Prime Minister, and his wife, Rosma Mansour?
I knew them. I met them a couple of times, here and there, and that's about it. I was going to do a movie with Raza.
Riza, yeah.
We wanted to do a film, and we didn't. Never happened.
Okay. How well did you know Mr. Jolo?
I met him once.
Okay, where was that?
In Vegas at that party. He mentioned to me he wanted to finance the Irishman, but that was, just talk.
Okay. Your son, Raphael, was dealing with Joe on a property sale in...
I was aware of that, yes.
Do you know how that came about?
I don't know how it came about. Are you an investigative reporter? Because I think the authorities should be asking me these questions.
Yeah, there's some huge allegations going around in Hollywood and the US, and I'm absolutely sure that you don't want your name associated with any of it. It would just be nice to get your...
I don't care whether my name is associated, because I didn't do anything, and I don't know what it is. And I know, and I'm aware of it, but, I don't give a shit. So when you say this stuff, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed at your attitude, and
I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to annoy you.
Yeah, well, I don't fucking appreciate it. Excuse me. Get the fuck out of here. Goodbye.
One thing that I found fascinating is that when I speak to the biggest names in Hollywood, I just don't think people are aware. No one actually then, they go, oh God, yeah, we heard about that scandal maybe, but then they don't turn and look at its actual effects in the country that it's hurt the most.
This story, it opened my eyes as it goes international and so embarrassing. It also hit me hard. Small country like Malaysia now known because of global corruption. It drives my eagerness to know and explore more about Malaysia's political landscape. Dari situ mindset ataupun perkembangan pemikiran saya tentang ahli politik mula berubah, dan dari situ saya mulai sedar bahawa dunia politik ini tak semestinya semuanya smooth dan baik-baik saja, tetapi boleh juga terjebak kepada corruption. Yeah. All of the questions of 1MDB have been left unanswered until now. I don't understand why the Prime Minister acts as if nothing happened.
I started a magazine called Gedung Cartoon. This is 100% political cartoon where we talk about issues like corruption. But the government banned the magazine immediately. Then the 8 officers came to my office, confiscated that more than 500 copies of the magazine and banned the magazine. During the interrogation, I told them, look, you can ban my books, you can ban my cartoon, but you cannot ban my mind. I will keep drawing until the last drop of my ink. But after the 1MDB scandal in Malaysia, I'm not sure whether I'm the one who's going to end up in prison or the Prime Minister and the wife. I'm lucky to have her, actually. She's very cartoonable. She carry a lot of handbags and also ring and shoes. People call her Imelda Marcos of Malaysia or Imelda Rosma. She like to shop.
Najib had a credit card and he'd spent $130,000 in a Chanel store in Honolulu. And we knew from the documents we had that this credit card was being funded by 1MDB money when they were in the Chanel and trying to make a purchase. There was some problem with the credit card, and Najib communicated with Joe to let him know that via BlackBerry messages, because Joe was running Najib's account.
What has triggered this new wave of interest for the ordinary Malaysians, especially in the villages, is the fact that the money from 1MDB, $27 million of it was actually used to buy a diamond necklace for the Prime Minister's wife. With 1MDB money, they bought a diamond 22 carat, $27 million for the wife of the Prime Minister. It's 120 million ringgit for the diamond. And average teacher gets paid 3,000 ringgit a month. And that's 12 months a year. That's 3,333 teachers you can finance with that one diamond for an entire year. That's a lot of teachers. That has aroused a degree of anger. Malaysians are by and large desensitized to corruption, but the scale of it, I think, is waking people up.
Mestilah kita rasa malu kan. Kau bayangkan kalau rumah kau masuk, lepas tu tiba-tiba pertama kali saya berbincang rakan-rakan mahasiswa dan juga anak muda. Orang kata tak boleh demo-demo ni kan, macam ganas sangat. Tapi sampai mana mesej tu boleh sampai kan? Dan seterusnya kami bersepakat untuk adakan satu aksi untuk menyampaikan mesej ini kepada lebih ramai rakyat Malaysia, menjalankan satu demonstrasi.
The Malaysian people were defrauded on an enormous scale. This is the largest kleptocracy seizure in U.S. history. As alleged in the complaint, funds were stolen under the pretense of having 1MDB invest in an oil exploration joint venture with a foreign partner. But this wasn't a legitimate investment for 1MDB or for the Malaysian people. Instead, the funds transferred to the shell companies were used for the personal enrichment of the corrupt officials and their associates.
Obviously, 50 bottles of Cristal from Saudi and Malaysia is not enough. Guess what? We got a lot of shit coming from Saudi and Malaysia. Bring on 100 bottles of Cristal for everyone.
Jolo, I see you, Jolo. Got Leo at my party, taking shots, never solo. Grade A chorizo, followed by Steve ass miso, miso, miso loco, so loco, so loco, so loco, so Rastizo.
They used the money to pay gambling debts at Las Vegas casinos. They rented luxury yachts. Among the purchases was a Bombardier jet with a purchase price of about $35 million.
The U.S. Justice Department is looking to seize $540 million in assets bought with money stolen from Malaysian state fund 1MDB.
Among the assets are jewellery worth millions of dollars gifted to model Miranda Kerr, and artworks by Picasso and Basquiat, gifts to actor Leonardo DiCaprio. Joe Lowe has allegedly embezzled hundreds of millions of dollars from 1MDB to support a luxurious lifestyle and buy such extravagant gifts. A spokesperson for DiCaprio said he will support all efforts to assure that justice is done.
They spent millions on property, some of which is subject to seizure and forfeiture based on the complaint filed today.
Arriving at 1432 Oriole Drive on the left.
There you go. This is the mansion that Jolo bought for himself as a little treat in 2012 for about $39 million. It's mentioned in the Justice Department rulings as one of the mansions that he bought with allegedly stolen Malaysian money. And it's quite a vast palace of a house, just around the corner from his good friend Leonardo DiCaprio. Did he ever actually live in it? I mean, was
he moved furniture into it. There's furniture in there now.
Really?
But no, he had a big Oscar party when he first bought it because some of the neighbors went.
Oh, okay.
Told me they were up there.
Right.
looked around, thought it was great.
Yeah?
Yeah, they got to rub elbows with Leo and his other neighbors. And
you haven't ever seen him, have you?
No, nobody's seen him in 2 years, apparently.
Yeah.
Why, are you looking for him?
Yeah. Well,
you should. Go ask Leo. I'm sure he knows. He's probably hiding in Leo's basement.
It's a bit cobwebby as well. I don't think they've been there for a while. Looks a bit quiet. No one in.
Well, we don't have full visibility on what Jolo's doing right now. And he's certainly sort of gone under the radar. Got the number of this guy, right, who probably was there. So I'm gonna call him. But I'm just trying to like work out when to do it because I don't want to. I mean, it could. You know what I mean? There's a certain amount of risk associated with it, right? I'm just going to try to find equanimity. The boat is believed to be owned by Jolo through an offshore company. Now we know that his boat was over at the marina, but it's left.
Where the hell is Jolo?
Where is Jolo? I don't know where Jolo is. Do you know where Jolo is?
Nobody knows where.
Well, do you have any information about where he is?
Well, to me, the safest place for him is Malaysia itself.
Uh-huh. Why is that?
Just think of it, right? You know, you have the keys to the kingdom, and where will you keep your person locked up, okay? In the place where you are most secure.
Right. So you think the government of Malaysia is hiding Jolo?
Look, I'm not saying, I'm just asking a question.
No, I understand.
Where is the main character of this whole drama?
The local guys told us that the Equanimity, Jolo's boat's out there. If you look over there, I guess that's Yama Point, and it's a kilometre or two off of that out at sea. You can't see it so easily from the mainland, and I guess the headland here is all forested, so it's a pretty secluded spot. They've got that there. So we think it's sort of trying to sort of hide in plain sight so that no one really knows what's going on. A bunch of skiffs have been going out, and a captain came from the boat yesterday, and they've been taking provisions out there. I'm no yacht expert, but it's certainly a super yacht. It has a launch pad for a helicopter, multi-decks. I think it's like 180 feet, and I think it has a crew of 30 people. So it's definitely a yacht that you would notice. So yeah, we saw the boat off the pier in east of Phuket. It was anchored offshore, and then all of a sudden, around 10 p.m. in the evening, it starts setting off to the south at a rate of knots and takes off into the open sea. This is a marine tracker. You can see all the boats moving around in real time, and looks like the boat's gone around the southern tip of Phuket and was doing 12 knots, which is, you know, fairly fast speed. And then here it's stopped, and that's 21 hours ago. So I imagine they've turned off their identification. It's gone.
We, as the young generation, have to do something. Rise up. Mahasiswa adalah sebagai third force kepada pembangkang maupun kerajaan, tetapi menjadi ejen sembaimbang kepada kedua-duanya. Sebelum rally berlangsung, kami pastikan persiapan-persiapan untuk kita berkumpul, selamat ataupun tidak, urgent arrest, memastikan perjalanan demonstrasi itu berlangsung secara aman.
Tapi masalah di sini, masalah dia kebiasaannya dia akan duduk sini. Dia penting, dia minta semua. Ya, biasanya macam tu.
I saw the violence with my own eyes. So I know the risk. Two days before the rally, I feel insecure. I realized that someone keep following me. When I organizing student meeting, they keep the company at the back. I hope that I will be safe until the rally. Lebih kepada untuk kita tuntut pihak-pihak yang sepatutnya, yang berkuasa, yang bertanggungjawab untuk menangkap individu yang bernama Malaysian Official One yang telah pun
Thank you. Prime Minister Najib helped set up one IMDb in 2009, and he does not seem to be named in any of the court documents that you filed today. Would you rule out implicating him in any of your future investigations or court filings?
We don't have a specific comment on anyone who hasn't been named so far. We are essentially describing the tracing of the assets, the use of the funds, and who was involved in the transactions.
everyone knows who is Malaysian Official One.
Some kind of agreement, though, between U.S. prosecutors and the Malaysian government not to name the Prime Minister.
Our agreement is only to draft a complaint, as we always do in civil forfeiture matters. You'll see that this is a complaint that is against the actual property or assets.
Walaupun sudah terang-terang kita boleh tahu siapa dia Malaysian Official One. Memang sengaja tidak menyebut siapa dia individu Malaysian Official One itu.
Bebas, bebas. Tangkap everyone.
In October of 2015, my LA field office joined the investigation, specifically focusing on Riza Aziz and Red Granite Pictures.
The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely fucking not.
Approximately $238 million was wired to Red Granite Capital in Singapore, an entity controlled by Aziz. This money was then used to fund Red Granite Pictures operations, including the production of the film The Wolf of Wall Street.
If it's proven that in fact the money was embezzled from the government of Malaysia, transferred around the world, and ultimately went into the funding of a movie about the story of a man who stole money and moved it around the world, that's the ultimate irony. The parallels between Jolo and Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street are amazing. In the early days, very disciplined, very creative, very charismatic. But unfortunately, I think the intoxication of power and wealth, it led him on a very deadly path.
When these guys tend to get the money that they get, they forget the definition of the word excess.
I know we're a little unorthodox, we're a little loud in the way we do things, but you gotta understand we're the new guys on the block, you know, trying to make a name for ourselves. But I want you to understand, we don't do anything illegal.
Money bought him power, it bought him access, it bought him recognition, it bought him status, it bought him anything that crazy sums of money can buy.
From Saudi Arabia to the heart.
To me, this is absolutely a cautionary tale. And if you're going to submerge yourself in the attitude of people that have been very destructive of our economy, we've got to understand what entices them. And we've got to be honest and authentic about the portrayal of who these people are.
I think whenever you're dealing with a young person who's put in a position to make an enormous amount of money and doesn't have the discipline to control it, there's a little bit, you know, of empathy that you feel with them. But at the end of the day, you know, we all have to pay for the actions we do, and that's kind of how our story ends.
You know what I was just thinking too? The fucking hero that I'm gonna be back at the office when the Bureau seizes this fucking boat. Because, I mean, fuckity fuck, Jordan, look at this thing.
We will not allow the massive, brazen, and blatant diversion of billions of dollars from one MDB and the alleged laundering of those funds through U.S. financial institutions to continue.
Indonesian police and the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, inspected a luxury yacht on Thursday on the island of Bali.
Penyitaan kapal itu adalah proses pengamanan kapal itu sendiri karena nilai kapal ini yang jumlahnya amat sangat besar.
There categorically would not have been a 1MDB scandal without Jolo. He is behind the scenes running the fund. But what exactly did Najib know about it? It's unclear, and more reporting needs to be done about exactly what did he know about billions that investigators are looking into.
Nearly 15 million Malaysians will vote in general elections that will determine if the National Front coalition can extend its 60-year grip on power. They will choose between Prime Minister Najib Razak or the opposition led by 92-year-old former leader Mahathir Mohamad. Anger over the 1MDB fiasco led to the return of Mahathir. He has galvanized a fractured opposition to oust what he calls a government of thieves, but the odds are stacked against them.
Well, against the odds, Malaysia's former ruler Mahathir Mohamad is once again set to take control. He's led an opposition coalition to a shock victory.
Disbelief and euphoria as long-suffering supporters of Malaysia's opposition finally realised what seemed a near impossible dream.
verdict of the people.
Well, that's it. 6 decades of one-party rule is over.
We feel as if we are breathing new air today.
How do you feel now?
No, I feel very, very happy, you see.
The feeling is just awesome.
For Malaysia, I was very happy because it was going to happen peacefully, and I was very proud of my country. But at the same time, I've been through a very eclectic set of emotions. It's very, very hard to describe.
The Malaysian government has slapped a travel ban on ousted Prime Minister Najib Razak, just as he was about to leave the country on a private jet.
Dr Mahathir is vowed to go after the billions of dollars allegedly stolen in the 1MDB corruption scandal.
Certain heads must fall.
I'm not sure whether I'm the one who's going to end up in prison or the Prime Minister and wife.
Tangkap Imran! Tangkap! Tangkap!
I was in a board meeting when my phone kept ringing because my brother was being arrested. You can never prepare for the scenes of your brother being charged. It was painful to watch. I felt very sad. I felt very sad for him. I felt especially sad for my mother.
Police officers conducted a 3-hour raid on former Premier Najib Tun Razak's safe house in Precinct 10.
The boxes filled with handbags, jewelry, and cash kept on coming.
$17 million worth of designer handbags and so much cash it took 22 officials with 6 counting machines 3 days to get through it.
There were 284 boxes containing handbags, and there were 72 bags containing cash, jewelry, and watches. From the 72 bags, 35 contained cash, and we have counted the cash, and the cash is amounting to 114 million.